Hello, I just put new tie rod ends on the Land Cruiser. It was a mess. I had well over an eighth of a turn of steering wheel play, maybe somewhere approaching a quarter turn. And in addition to kind of driving along on one edge of the free play for a while and then driving along on the other edge of the free play, the car would also sometimes just change direction. It was unnerving. I have not really been driving it over 50 miles an hour. In addition to the I think the transfer case whine and the loud exhaust, the scary steering was well, it kept me slow. But I'm super excited about this. It is so tight. All the slack is gone. I have a really good feeling that this is going to be a really successful job. And I found it to be super easy to do this. So the first question, I guess there's two big challenges on this. One, getting the tie rod ends out of where they're stationed in there. You know, that tapered fitting is a super big bear to tackle sometimes if you're not doing it right. And boy, when I was young, I did it wrong a lot. And the second part was the toe in. So tackling the toe in, I started out just measuring it from the outside of one disc to the outside of the other disc, and to see how it was. And I was surprised to find a lot of difference in between laying it on the front, across the front of the disc, and across the back of the disc. There was 10/32 of an inch difference of toe in between the back of the disc and the front of the disc. 10/32, that's a super easy thing to measure. And the second part is that the rod ends, the length of them, where they bottomed out inside of the rods to where the upright of the rod end passes through, was really precise. I took my wire brush and cleaned them out real well, but still, the threads didn't want to play inside of the old rods. But you bottomed out. You felt when you hit the rust and the dirt that I couldn't quite get cleaned out. Stopped it there, and lo and behold, it's the exact same length. So that made it super easy. Then in terms of measuring the toe, 10/32 of an inch between the front and the rear. I mean, you could measure that with a twig, right? I mean, just something you find laying on the ground. That was super easy to measure. And so, we've got the toe in right. So that was pretty much it. I bought the kit for $100, $10, $12 shipping or something like that. And I think it's going to make a really big difference in the car. So to go over the job itself, just to show you what specifically we need to do. This is my heater. There's lots of other ways to get heat out of it, but this is the one we use for the fire inside the house. It's just your average MAP gas thing and your average camping propane thing, and it does a beautiful job of heating stuff. So there are 5 tie rod ends that you have to do. You've got 3 of them right here. 1 there, 1 off the steering, and 1 underneath there. So between these 5, this one was slightly more challenging because I had to hammer up, but I took the heater and I took my heat gun. Where's my heat gun? Right here. And I put heat on these things So when you use heat, what you want to do is heat the outside, the nut, or on this side, the outside there, and make it warm. As you heat it up, it will expand, importantly, up to hundredths of an inch, well beyond the thousandths of an inch kind of tolerance. So I put the heat on it, and after it got hot, I think it was probably around 250 degrees that the thing had really opened up. So I unscrewed the crown nut to where it is touching, to where it is a little bit over the top of the bolt there. And that gives me the freedom to pound on it pretty well, because the nut protects the bolt. And then the other part is that the crown opens up the bolt a bit, so you can screw it back on there even if you damage it a bit. So my process is to unscrew the crown nut until it's a little bit, just a hair above that, maybe a quarter thread above it, quarter turn above it, and get that thing heated up to about 250 degrees, and then bash on it, and it pops right out. Did the same in there, pointed in the wrong direction, did the same right there, and did the same right there. There's 3 rods associated with this. One is the rod coming out of the steering box out to here. The second is the rod from this arm over to the other side. And then you've got the tie rod that goes from this wheel to that wheel and over to here. I didn't even bother to separate these two right there. There was no sense in it. Just unscrewed it as a complete unit. And then put the pieces back together, and we are ready to go. Yeah, there we are. And I'm going to throw on the wheels and take her for a spin and watch this thing go straight. It's going to be beautiful. I do have one question. Hopefully, maybe if anybody ever watches this, perhaps you can tell me what to call this, because I don't have a name for it. It hasn't really been in any of my steering adventures in my autocross cars or anything like that. So let's see if I can't get a fix on this. Let me find a place where the light's gonna work well. All right, so this rod coming from the steering over to here, it comes down at an angle, right? It's like bump steer, sort of, right? It's coming at an angle, and so anyway, when this is in the up position, because this thing can move, right? So come on, there we go. When it's up, the rod distance between here and the steering is the same, but the radius pushes this out a hair. And then when I push it down, let's see if we can't get a picture of this a little bit. When I rotate it down, now it pulls this in just a hair. And that action actually affects the steering. See if you can't watch this. The disc is going to move left and right as I move this up and down. Both sides move in the same direction, by the way. So if this moves to turn right, it turns right. If this moves to turn left, it turns left. So perhaps this will show on here. Up, down, up, down, up, down. All right. Anyway, I wonder if that's what I felt when I was talking about sometimes the thing just decides it's going to go in a slightly different direction and you got to adjust for it. Hopefully the increased friction in the rod ends is going to maybe diminish that a bit. But if you have anything intelligent to say about what I just showed you, I would love to hear it, because no suspension or steering setup I've ever dealt with before has got that peculiarity in it. Anyway, we're all excited to get back on the road. Talk to you soon.